Well, hello, and welcome to our final Mental Health Monday moment. This week's title is From Hesitation to Healing, Beginning Therapy with Ease. All month long, we have covered varied topics, and today we want to tie a bow on them so that if any of our hearers have been out there and you feel like you need counseling or you know someone who needs counseling, we want to make sure that you know every step to take in order to get connected. So we want to take this journey together towards healing. And today we have three therapists with us with varied backgrounds and certainly a wealth of knowledge to help us to accomplish this goal. Today we have with us Nicosia Jones Johnson, who's a clinical therapist and CEO and founder of Visions of Wellness. We also have Joshua Lennox, who is a licensed clinical mental health counselor. And finally, we have Tony Kelly, who is a licensed clinical social worker and owner and CEO of Tony Kelly Counseling and Consulting. Thank you all for joining us on today to dive into this topic.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, thank you so much. I know that God has deposited so much inside each and every one of you, and not only your experience, but your expertise can help us to speak to this topic today. So, kind of want to just dive in, right? Y'all ready?
Yeah, we're ready.
So I believe that all of us know in the climate that we're living in now that the stigma to counseling has somewhat been broken, and so you see more people. I know y'all's books and calendars have been a little more full, and not a bad thing, right?
Right.
Certainly great that we are experiencing that, but I think we also know that there are others who are out there who could certainly benefit from counseling and or therapy. So let's kind of talk about what are some of the reasons that you feel like people are not making the connection, even though they kind of feel like they could benefit from it. And whoever wants to dive in.
You want to take it first?
Okay.
Well, I think there are several themes that come to mind. For me, it's misinformation. They don't have all of the proper information to even know what to expect. Also, I think there's really not understanding that God doesn't want you to suffer and that you can be healed. And then I think also fear. I think that people in their childhood, some people have been sworn to secrecy. And so then as adults, they think everything needs to be a secret. And so they're ashamed. And some people, they don't reach out for help. And so those are some of the things that I think.
Sure. I kind of want to piggyback off what you said, Tony, which I think were great points. I think also on the last point you mentioned about fear, I think also it's a fear of the unknown.
Yes.
What am I getting myself into? What does this really mean? And I think also a stigma around that can be, am I going to therapy and does that mean that I'm crazy? Does that mean that something's wrong with me? Does that mean that I'm defected or something of that nature, not knowing that every human being actually should be sitting across from someone who
Yes.
can hold a safe space for them. So I
Yes.
think also just not knowing what's to come through the process creates a level of fear and also resistance.
Yeah. I agree. I agree with all of that.
I think it's also judgment too.
That's good.
Not knowing if they'll be judged, and concerned about here it is this person I don't know, this unfamiliar face or the stranger telling me something about myself. How uncomfortable that space can be for that person. So
That's good. A lot of times, of course, as I sit in this role as the associate pastor of congregational care, they'll call the church and almost for confirmation, or affirmation that, it is time for counseling. But then sometimes, even when you recommend that or you say, you know what, I think it is time at this point, they still sometimes kind of hesitate to make that call and kind of try to wait things out. So here's another question that surfaces from kind of where we already are in the conversation and just things that I've noticed not being a counselor but serving in this role. People kind of want to know, how do they assess when there is an actual need for therapy, right? Because people, I mean, all of us, we live in a broken world, you know, where chaos is everywhere, you know, so we're going to all have some, you know, trials and things that we have to deal with. But how do you move from, okay, this is normal for me to kind of feel, you know, the way that I'm feeling about things that I'm experiencing, to know this is, you know, the time for me to move from just this to to seeking some therapy or some counseling.
If I could chime in really quick, ladies, I think one of the things is recognizing and having a level of self-awareness of knowing something has changed with me, and I'm not quite sure where this started, and I might feel also that I'm not capable at the moment to walk this out by myself. So again, knowing that there's someone that's got to have a little bit more level of expertise, because we're all experts of ourselves, but then having someone who is a professional, someone who's licensed, who's been through rigorous training, to come alongside me and say, hey, can you point me in a direction, because right now maybe my direction is off with where my life is, and maybe I'm no longer as centered as I was.
Yeah, that makes me instantly think about quality of life.
Yes.
How are my relationships? You know, am I angry all the time? All of these different things. If your quality of life has diminished in some capacity, it's probably time to go speak to someone.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah, I think about introspection, right? Being able to take an inner look. And like you mentioned, if there's something you're struggling with, you know, some days, like, you know, every one of us made it here today, right? But there's someone that has a hard time just allowing their feet to hit the floor in the morning. And so if you're noticing things about yourself, because who's the expert on you? Well, we know God is first, but then you, right? And so at that point, you know when things are going awry. And at that point, you should be like, well, maybe I could try this. And that's my thing. I feel like we're salesmen here today. Getting people to buy into the need just to talk to someone.
Yeah.
But God created us to be here so you can have that one good person on earth to talk to.
No, I think that's great, you know, and not only, you know, I'll put you guys back in the hot seat, you are the salesman, but, you know, I think it is really healthy. You know, Mount Zion is a diverse church, but a majority of our congregants are African American. You know, so as we know that, you know, that's our demographic, that as people are listening in, we probably have more African American people who are listening in to these Mental Health Monday moments. So seeing faces that look like them and being able to speak to this topic and say it's okay for you to seek counseling, it's, you know, completely normal and healthy for you to do that. I think that, you know, if y'all are the salesmen, they should be buying. Right?
Yeah, I would venture to say each of us have a therapist.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you know, and so we truly believe in it. You know, we talk to someone on a consistent basis. You know, it's important.
Now, if there was anything that was a great marketing tool, Tony, I think you just did it. You know, when the therapist has a therapist, then you know that it is necessary. And it's so true. Myself, the same, you know, because as much as I deal with people and try to meet their needs, I have to be able to go and pour somewhere so that somebody can meet me at my point of need. You know, I think about this too because when congregants call in, sometimes they're not calling in for themselves. They're calling in for somebody in their family that they have noticed something may be off with them, you know. So talk about how do individuals get loved ones connected, because I think we all know that as adults you cannot make anybody go to counseling, but the loved one feels so helpless when they cannot help their loved ones. So can we give people something to hold on to as far as charting out a path to helping the loved one that they know stands in need of something?
I can say I've gotten people to kind of look at possible, sometimes support groups, right? Sometimes we have to start on a small scale. They may not be ready to sit on that couch in the therapist's office, but maybe they'll sit amongst a group and listen. And so that might be helpful. But then I also, speaking to a family member who really know the need for that loved one, I usually tell them maybe you can kind of say, hey, this would help me, right? Not so much on them, but it would help me. Like, I'm seeing this person. Why don't you join me for that session?
Yeah.
Right? Come have a seat with me, because it would I love your support. Right? And once they hear and they see that it's nothing to really have that fear about, then that might be the buy-in.
Can we tag me? Okay. I think for me, the last point of what you mentioned, I think there's a level of something I call sensitive psychoeducation.
Yes. There
So
we
I
go.
think if we're going to gravitate to our lovely family members, and also being a tool ourselves.
Absolutely.
But why I say sensitive is because you do not want to present with judgment as we're going to our family members, even if it's someone who's aware of things that they're dealing with or they're not aware. Can I go to them in a soft way in being able to provide? There's something I think that you may, you may benefit from. Can I offer a few things to you? And again, you're completely open if you want to take this on or if not. So I say back to this, being very sensitive and mindful when approaching them, but also giving them some level of education on it and leaving that in their lap.
Yeah, I'm hearing communication and lived experience.
Yes.
Yeah, like
Yes.
now is not the time to go, I saw this on Google. Like, no, no, that's what you don't want to present, but you definitely want to say, I think this may help. And here's how it's helping me. So, yeah.
Sure.
That's good. That's good because I've seen several experiences where people have wanted to, if they could have just, loaded them in the car and taking them to a counseling center or somewhere because, anybody that you love, you want to see them at their best self. But that person also has to be willing. Right?
Yeah.
So let's shift gears just a little bit. We want to, let's go Bible for a little bit. Y'all all right?
Yes.
Let's go to John 5, where Jesus encountered the man who was laying at the pool of Bethesda. And I believe it was 38 years that he had been laying there. And so, of course, when Jesus approached him, he asked him just one question. Do you want to be made whole? And as quickly as he responded to Jesus and giving Jesus all of these excuses about why he had not been able to get in the pool, Jesus quickly responded, right? Because Jesus is swift. Jesus said, I got to come back, though.
Yeah.
So I got to put the onus back on you. Instead of you making all of these excuses, you got to do something. Sometimes instead of you waiting on me to heal you, you've got to do something in your own right. Take it up on yourself to participate in your own healing. So he said, take up your bed and follow me. So I want to talk about what are the steps that a person can take to put that responsibility on themselves. What should a person do? How do they even begin to choose a counselor? Do they, go on Google? Do they go on the Mount Zion website? Do they contact you guys? But what does it look like for them to choose a counselor? Do they talk to their HR department about a employee assistance program? Just tell us some of the things that could help a person get started if they have decided to make that step to again.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many resources, but again, if you don't know, you don't know. And so there are provider directories like Psychology Today where you can search. There is your EAP through your, job-based insurance plans. There's word of mouth. All of those different things. But I would say the initial step is reaching out to one of those. Or no, not one, several. And I say that because a lot of us as therapists are small business owners. So we're admin, we're billing, and we want to reach out to you. But, reach out to 3 or 5 of those and then schedule a consultation, a 15, 20-minute consultation. And they're going to ask you about your symptoms. And then they're going to say, well, here is how I could approach that. And then from there, if you want to schedule an intake appointment, you could, with them. But if not, if you want to go to the next consultation, do that. But that would be the beginning step, Anything
Sure.
else?
Just to link off of, you kind of just did that just wonderfully.
Yeah,
But just
thank
to add something, like you mentioned with psychology today, you
Yeah.
know, or things of that nature. But I also say, I almost said phone book. Look in the phone book. That does not exist anymore, y'all. But at the same time, I would say look up. You can Google.
Yes,
since
Black
it's so
therapists,
easy.
yes.
Yeah, Black therapists.
CBT, all of those
Yes,
things, yeah.
or also just looking in. If you want to type in to be just minimal of saying therapists in my area, so that
Yes.
you look locally, because it could be one right around the corner. it
Yes,
could be
yes.
somewhere right around by your job or anything of that nature. So, and then I would I very much so agree with Tony. You want to find multiple.
Yes.
You might not be locked in one, and again, try maybe 2 or 3
Yeah.
just to get a feel, because you might get locked into one, or you might get locked into another one, but you always have a choice. And I think that's another thing. When you're looking, don't feel like you found one place and then you just pigeonhole to that. You can look for several different places. So I would say that.
Yeah, because those first few sessions, you're assessing best fit. Are we a good fit for each other? You know, and so if you feel like this is not a good fit, then hey, let's find you someone who would be a better fit.
Absolutely. Because your counselor, you know, you can't just close your eyes blindly and just say, okay, I'm going to pick this one here, you know, like pin the tail on the donkey. You want to find a counselor almost like you're looking for a hairstylist. And y'all know we don't let everybody fool with our hair.
Right.
We want to make sure that that counselor fits exactly what we need, that we're very comfortable with them. And again, that we don't mind going and sitting on their couch and knowing that we're going to have our needs met. Right.
Yes.
Go ahead,
I wanted to tell y'all, I'm about to burst because of what you just said, Pastor Katina, but I think it's like dating. In a sense, if you're going to go with someone on a date for the first time, you get to assess what you need. You might sit down with the date and say, I serve a better God than this, and you might walk out, you might leave. Or you may find someone say, I might give them another chance because I really enjoy it's in a relationship, it's an investment, and it's also, you're building an alliance, you're building a bond, you're also working to build trust with somebody. So again, you're opening your life to someone who is a professional, but also can be very much so, this is a stranger. So in some way, you're learning, I've got to be open, honest, and vulnerable with someone I don't know. So that takes time. You have to build that relationship, but you get to choose to say, do I want to remain in this relationship that I'm starting off, or do I feel like I might need to shift gears and go to the next, try someone else?
Yes. Self-advocacy.
Yes.
Yes, because we want to educate, equip, and empower. And I wholeheartedly agree with that. It's their right to come in and be able to say, we fit or we don't fit. And that we can honor that as well, because we want to see them get the best support that they need.
We do.
That's good. Y'all have been absolutely wonderful. We have just a couple of more minutes. And I would like for us to close out just by addressing just one last concern. You know, now they've found the counselor. They have gone in. They have received a treatment plan.
Yep.
Right? Everything's laid out, you know, for them to be able to follow. How important is it for them to stick to that treatment plan? Because we know, again, well, let me just stop there because I know you guys are going to address it. How important, what's the impact of them being able to stick to that treatment plan?
I think it's a great impact. I would say in the same way that you would go to your medical doctor, for me, physical health and mental health are parallel. So if you're expected to follow recommendations, right? One of the things that I usually say is, look, I'm in this with you, right? We're going to hold it together. But I am not here for you to dump on for 60 minutes. If you cannot come in and do the work, because it will be work. People don't know therapy is work.
It's a lot of work.
And there will be assignments, and there are things for you to follow up on. And it's just like a doctor giving you a prescription and a plan. It's the same thing for me. So that's how I explain it.
It's an investment. You know, you drove there, or you clicked on the telehealth link, or you paid your copay, or you paid your deductible. It's an investment. And your investment, you want a return on your investment. And so that really is, I tell my clients all the time, 85% of change happens outside.
Yes.
You know, the 15% is what happens on this couch. But that other 85, if you're not putting in that 85, you're not going to get a return on your investment. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so I'm gonna mix both of y'all
Okay.
because we're working together,
Yeah.
we're a team, right? I think from what you were saying too, I gather you have to put yourself in a position as you're being a client that I've got to be self-accountable. And sometimes that can be a tough thing because it's like, wait a minute, this is not all on my therapist. This is about me. When I come out of this room or I come off of this link, it's all on me because my counselor's not with me 24 hours a day, although you might hear our voices in your head at some point, but we're not with you. So I have to hold myself accountable, and maybe that can be tough because you're also dealing with layers of yourself that you're not even knowing about because you're learning about. To table what you said, Tony, I think it's important to realize that when we are just a facilitator. So again, the main work is all on you. And sometimes, you hear your clients say, I wouldn't be where I was without you. And it's like, that's nice. I'm glad that I could stay in this and walk with it, but this is all on you. So, and about being the investment, it's like knowing that this is like a life insurance thing. And this is something that is not just your mental health, but also it's something that's sustaining you during your life in a way that's taking you to an optimal level that you have not seen before. So I think that that's just important. So that was just,
Thank you.
Perfect. I think that this is a great way to close out this segment. You guys have laid out great information on how to choose a counselor, but also once you choose the counselor and the counselor that you decided to go with has given you a care plan, this is how you follow it so that you can go forward in the healing that God would have you to operate in. Yeah. Thank you guys so much for joining us for this final segment. And so for those of you who have been listening in and are listening in on today, we thank you for joining us all month long for these Mental Health Monday moments. We are certainly not going to drop you off and leave you here. If you desire to connect with any of the therapists that have spoken to this topic on today, we are going to make sure that their information is put on the screen to make sure that you have some options even on today. And even beyond that, we also have some options on our Mount Zion website, mtzionnashville.org, under the Care tab, and then you would just click on Counseling and Crisis Services. So God bless you on today. God keep you until next time.